Welcome to Stage 7 of the Tour de France from Périgueux to Bergerac, the first of two individual time trials, and this one, the longer of the two. A fairly hilly course, so it should suit the specialist who can climb a little bit as well. And Lech Piasecki of Ceramicus with the best time, but his teammate Brooking is going to challenge that, who is second at both of the checkpoints, and looking strong in the latter part of the course. And he set a new best time 24 seconds ahead of Piasecki. That was Pedro Delgado, who just finished in 4th, 2 minutes 42 behind Brooking. Now Lech Piasecki, one of the few riders in the VeloTour who has not scored any points this season. If he can hang on to a top 5 place, then he'll change that. And then his teammate Peo Ruiz will be one of the final riders to not score points. Still some big hitters to come, likes of Ghost of Peterson and Bjarne Riis. Jerry Kniedemann and Rudy Altig also out on the course, although it might be a little bit too hilly for them to win the stage, but we'll just have to see. Cycling through some of the many riders out on the course, I don't think the yellow jersey has quite started yet. So many of the GC contenders just getting underway. This is Andrew Hampsten, one of the great climbers on the Ceramicus team. His teammate Delgado setting a good time at the finish. And of course, Hampsten is not known for his time trialing. Could find himself some minutes down at the finish. And considering what he lost on stage 3 in the cobbles, he'll be a long way back once we start the mountain stages. As Paolo Salvadelli just set the 3rd best time, and Hampsten, 8th place, 4 minutes back. Has a big time deficit, and here's Knut Knudsen, who set the best time at the checkpoints, and he's now set the best time at the finish. And Knudsen, another rider with 0 points this season, is now very much in contention for a stage victory. So to go from no points to getting in the winners column would be quite a turnaround. See if Knudsen can hold on. Here's Ghost of Peterson, who was 3rd at the first time check. Reminder that Peterson, 2 minutes and 9 seconds behind Andre Dargod, losing some time on that cobbled stage 3, so he's out on the course earlier than some of his big rivals. There's another stage challenger, Rudy Altig, 17 seconds down at the first check, so some work to do in the next 2/3 of the course. Catching up with Peterson, he's approaching the 2nd time check. Not far off the leaders at the first check, it's Knudsen with the best time at checkpoint 2, 41 minutes. And Peterson 5th place at 47 seconds, so he's actually lost some ground. We'll see how this time compares to that of Bjarne Riis, but I think Peterson might just be a bit off form today. I'd expect him to be closer to the best time than that. And of course, Slavi Claire need Ghost of Peterson to get a high finish in the general classification if they're going to run out winners of the VeloTour. Because Andre Dargod so far not producing in the sprints. He scored a fair amount of points, but he's yet to win a stage. And he's in a real dogfight with Jamaldine Abdujaparov for that green jersey. Just caught a glimpse of Jan Ullrich, who's had a very quiet start to the Tour de France. Most of his time lost, which is over 1.5 minutes, was from that team time trial. He'll try to make up a big chunk of that today, particularly on the climbers like Andy Schleck. So still on board with Rudy Altig. Coming up towards the 2nd checkpoint, we'll see what kind of progress he has made. If he has gained back time, or if he's falling away from stage contention. Altig descending to the 2nd check. 7th place, 1 minute 10 seconds, so he's also losing ground. I don't think Altig is going to win the stage today. Meanwhile, Ghost of Peterson heading up towards the last 5 kilometers of his time trial. See if the last part of the course suits him better. green jersey of Abdi Japarov out on the course. There's Jan Ulrich again. Jan Adriaansens of Evian, another possible challenger for a high finish today. And another classification to keep track of on this stage is the Lanterne Rouge, because the climbers such as Pantani and Tunisa are going to lose an awful lot of time. So we'll see how that shakes up at the end of the stage. Here comes Ghost of Peterson of La Vie Claire. Under the Flamme Rouge, his final kilometer against the clock. Peterson looking to make inroads into his time deficit, and he's 5th place on the line, 1 minute 35 seconds behind Knut Knudsen. That will be a little bit of a disappointment to Peterson, who I think would expect to be in the top 3 on a stage like this. But we're getting into riders in the top 10 starting. This is Frank Schleck in 12th place, with his brother right behind him. And Andy Schleck, who's not a fabled time trialist, has already caught his brother at the first check. That is a 2-minute gap that he's bridged. So Frank Schleck has lost 3.5 minutes in just those few kilometers. And Andy Schleck not off to a great start either, despite catching his brother. He's already a 1.5 minutes down on the best time. Meanwhile, the Blackberry riders Henri Anglade and Tommy Prim, both good time trialists, could ascend the classification today. George Hincapie, average in net discipline, but he still holds a top 10 position and the King of the Mountains jersey. He's gone through 47th best at the first check. And Roger de Kock of Bianchi Campagnolo, quite a bit faster than that. And Bjarne Riis, the Tour de France favorite, before the start of the race. Let's see what he's done at the first check. 8th place, 30 seconds down, 22 seconds behind Ghost of Peterson. So as it stands right now, Peterson gaining back at least a little bit of time on Bjarne Riis. Now what of Henny Kuiper? 1 minute 8 seconds. And Bianchi Campagnolo need Kuiper to stay high in the general classification, both as a foil to Stan Ockers, a second attacking option if he will, but also the points that come with a top 10 finish in the final GC. And speaking of Ockers, here he is. 12th place, 40 seconds back, a decent start for Stan Ockers. He will be challenging for the race lead. So too is Julien Alaphilippe, and a great time for Julien Alaphilippe, 8th place at the first check, faster than Bjarne Riis, and those are not words I expected to say on this stage. Andre Dargod is going to lose time today, so we won't be too concerned with the yellow jersey, but rather who will take it off the shoulders of Andre Dargod. Andy Schleck coming up to the second time check. Worth noting that Jan Ulrich has set the 5th best time at the finish, ahead of Peterson. But Schleck 3 minutes down at the second time check, so he's going to lose some serious time on his rivals on this stage. If he was on his best form, you could argue that he could limit his losses to around 1.5 minutes, but that is not the case, and Andy Schleck will have a lot of work to do in the mountain stages. George Hincapie continuing to hemorrhage time. Even though he's in the top 10, not concerned about a high finish in the GC, more concerned about that King of the Mountains jersey and possibly winning another stage from the breakaway. We'll see how he gets on in the Pyrenean Mountains, contending for that jersey with the climbers. Bjarne Riis ascending the leaderboard at the second time check, faster than Jan Ulrich and 14 seconds behind Ghost of Peterson. So he's actually gained some time back on Peterson. Riis having a good ride today. Henny Kuiper not so much, 2 minutes down already. Would have been a fringe threat for a top 10 place on today's stage. Cyril Guimard also hemorrhaging time. Here's Ockers, one of the real men to keep an eye on today. 1 minute 26 down, so he's around 25 seconds down on Bjarne Riis and 40 down on Gösta Petersen. And of course around 2 minutes up on Andy Schleck at this point. Could be more than that by the finish. Fans at Evian and bettors on the Tour de France worried about the performance of Andy Schleck today. Not on his best form, 3 minutes down at the second time check, and we'll see what the final damage is on the finishing line. 500 meters to go. The unquestioned leader of Evian must now prove his worth in the mountain stages. He's lost 4 minutes and 23 seconds to Knut Knudsen. That is a serious time gap. And some French rivals like Tommy Prim will go past him in the GC. And his brother Frank even worse, 7 minutes down at the second time check. So a terrible ride for Frank Schleck today. 10.5 minutes lost in the time trial. It does not get much worse than that for the little climber. His GC challenge is over, he's now working entirely for Bjarne Riis. Certainly a valuable climber to have as an ally. And that's his leader Bjarne Riis, who just finished. In 6th place, 1 minute 27. He's gained back all that time on Gösta Petersen and is now finished 8 seconds ahead of him. So he's really turned it up on the last part of the course. And Gösta Petersen, who must have sharpied this stage as a real chance to take control of the Tour de France, has floundered, and his rival Riis going past him in the classification. Petersen relying on the time trial to make up lost time. So far, he is hemorrhaging even more of it. His other rival Stan Åkers, 14th place, 2 minutes 11 back. So Åkers losing around 45 seconds to Bjarne Riis. I think Riis might come over him in the GC, but not a bad ride for Stan Åkers. Very much in contention still. But first, we're going to catch up with the yellow jersey today, Andre Dargad, almost 3 minutes down at the first check, so that yellow jersey is gone. But of course, he will honor the jersey and ride a fast time trial, respecting what the yellow jersey means to the Tour de France. But he's going to finish a long way down today, although only 3 seconds slower than Andy Schleck, so that puts Schleck's performance into perspective. Knut Knudsen of Bianchi Campagnolo getting his first points of this season, and it is a victory in the long time trial of the Tour de France. He finished 20 seconds ahead of Erik Brooking of Ceramikas and 44 seconds ahead of Lech Piasecki, also of Ceramikas. So Knudsen and Piasecki both scoring their first points of the season. Jerry Kniedemann in 4th place, Jan Ullrich the best of the general classification favorites. He was in 5th at 1 minute 26 back. Bjarne Riis in 6th, just 2 seconds further back. 7th place goes to Petersen at 1 minute 36. Julien Alaphilippe with an outstanding performance, 1 minute 37 seconds. He is still very much high in the overall GC. Not known for his time trialing, but he's put on the show today. Vyacheslav Ekimov in 9th and Tommy Prim, 10th place, 1 minute 44 down. Åkers in the frame and Andy Schleck, that dangerous climber, losing a lot of time. And at the bottom of the stage standings, it's Eros Poli of the leftovers losing almost 12.5 minutes. There is your new general classification, and Julien Alaphilippe, not the rider we expected, but based on his performance today, certainly deserving of a yellow jersey. He is back in the race lead. Bjarne Riis up to 2nd place overall at 14 seconds. Tommy Prim of Blackberry up to 3rd at 37 seconds. Stan Åkers down to 4th at 41 seconds. Santiago Botero up to 5th place, 59 seconds. Jan Ullrich, Vyacheslav Ekimov, Rudi Altig, Henri Anglade, and Jan Andriansens rounding out the top 10. But 4 of the top 10 riders on the Blackberry squad, so they have plenty of options for the upcoming mountain stages. Ghost of Peterson back in the frame as well, he's up in the 12th place. Andy Schleck down to 19th, more than 3 minutes back. Might have a hard time making all that up in the mountains. And Garrett Jan Tonessa, the new leader in the Lanterne Rouge, he's ridden a terrible time trial, now occupying last place. No major changes in the points classification, Adi Japarov still leads, no change in the mountains jersey, and Bianchi Campagnolo defending their team lead in the time trial, but only just over Kelme and Blackberry. So we're back for another flat stage tomorrow, and then we're into the Pyrenees. So a lot to look forward to. We'll see you then.